Blood throbbed through my veins, pulsing with each beat of my heart, even as I stood as still as any statue. My hands were clasped neatly behind my back, while I stood rigidly at attention, shoulder to shoulder with the others in the Master Assassins Guild. King Oswald paced up and down in front of us. I kept my eyes fixed firmly on the banner bearing our kingdom's symbol, a fanged sea serpent, as I tracked our monarch in my peripheral vision. What could he want from us? Our last mission, to eliminate one of the noblemen from Pyren, had been executed flawlessly, as had the nobleman. But it was always our commander, Kazan, who handed down mission orders from one of the military generals, never the king himself. And Kazan was standing in line with the rest of us, instead of at the head of our group. He had even dispensed with his habit of spinning his throwing knives in his hand. The lack of the familiar sight drove home the gravity of the situation. Our kingdom has been offered a ceasefire and potential peace treaty. The king finally began. I hadn't thought our postures could have been any more rigid, but I found my own shoulders holding even more tension after his statement. An offer of peace after 2 centuries of war? Was he about to shut down our division and eliminate our positions? I maintained my fixed gaze, staring at the sea serpent with such intensity that the beam of my vision could have been used as a tightrope. My work was all I had. If I had to go back to Mistress Aldra and tell her that all her efforts and sacrifices to save me from a lifetime of poverty and hardship were for naught. There are conditions, King Oswald continued, still pacing across the damp stone so that the torches set into brackets along the walls set the sapphires in his crown agleam. Prince Tarquin, who will take over as Tsar in a few years, has demanded a bride from the ranks of our nobility. My jaw locked as hatred rushed in seething waves that set my already pulsing blood to boiling. Had he not stolen enough from our kingdom already? Wasn't it sufficient that he burned our crops, blockaded our ports, and forced us to drain the kingdom's coffers in this eons-long war? If it weren't for phoenix shifters like him, I might still have had parents. And now this Prince Tarquin was so arrogant as to demand a sacrificial bride from a nation that despised him. Was he determined to condemn an innocent girl to a lifetime of misery as a final trophy to satisfy his personal vendetta against Termarth? We need peace, the king continued, and Prince Tarquin is willing to compensate our kingdom with a considerable sum, and will cease the trade embargo, effective the day of the wedding. But we cannot leave ourselves defenseless in the event that foul play is afoot. Of course foul play was afoot. This was the Pyrenese nation we were talking about. Anyone suspecting anything less was the naivest of fools. Kazan saluted and barked, "Permission to speak freely, Your Majesty?" King Oswald inclined his head. This presents an ideal situation to strike a fatal blow against Pyren. If we send a decoy bride from our ranks, she will be perfectly placed to eliminate Pyrenese enemies in the event the peace treaty is broken. I resisted the twitch that tugged at my mouth. Trust Kazan to find every opportunity to spin any situation to suit our kingdom. For a man of more than 50 years, he was still as fit and mentally agile as any of the rest of us. The king's face broke out into a wide smile, relieved that Kazan had picked up on his hint so quickly.